It was an unusually busy afternoon, and I was running errands before heading home. My name is James Carter, and I'm the owner of a national chain of grocery stores called Harvest Fresh. The business has been in my family for years, and I'd worked my way up from stocking shelves as a teenager to eventually running the company. Despite my success, I've always kept a low profile. I don't walk around in fancy suits or drive luxury cars. That day, I was wearing a simple hoodie and jeans, blending in with the crowd as I visited one of my own stores to see how things were running. I loved visiting anonymously. It gave me a chance to see the reality of customer service and operations without any pretense. But as I pushed my cart down the produce aisle, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. It started with a young cashier giving me a suspicious glance as I entered. Then, I noticed a middle-aged white man, clearly the store manager, hovering nearby. He didn't approach me but kept watching from a distance as I examined some avocados. At first, I thought nothing of it, assuming he was just keeping an eye on things. But his behavior became more obvious as I moved through the store. Every aisle I entered, he seemed to appear a moment later, pretending to rearrange shelves or check inventory. When I reached the dairy section, he finally approached. "Excuse me," he said curtly, blocking my path. "Can I help you with something?" I smiled politely. "No, thanks. Just grabbing a few things." His eyes narrowed. "You've been wandering around for a while now. Do you have any intention of actually buying something?" I was taken aback by his tone. "Yes, I do. I'm just taking my time. Is that a problem?" "People who linger usually are," he muttered under his breath, but loud enough for me to hear. I decided to ignore him and continue shopping, but his actions became more aggressive. A few minutes later, I noticed him whispering to another employee, pointing in my direction. Then I saw him pull out his phone and make a call. Within 10 minutes, 2 police officers arrived. They entered the store, and the manager quickly rushed over to greet them, gesturing animatedly in my direction. "That's him," he said loudly enough for nearby shoppers to hear. "He's been acting suspiciously. I think he might be stealing." I felt my stomach drop as the officers approached me. All eyes were on me now, the whispers and judgment from other shoppers palpable. I stayed calm, knowing I had nothing to hide. "Sir, we've received a report about suspicious activity," one officer said. "Can we check your bag?" "Of course," I replied, handing over the small basket I was carrying. "I haven't even checked out yet." The officer looked through it, finding nothing but a carton of eggs, a loaf of bread, and some fruit. He looked back at the manager, clearly annoyed. "There's nothing here," the officer said. The manager wasn't satisfied. "Maybe he's hiding something on him," he insisted. "You should search him." "That won't be necessary," I said, my voice calm but firm. "I think this has gone far enough." The officer nodded, but the manager wasn't done. "If he's not stealing, then what's he doing here? He's been acting weird since he walked in. I know trouble when I see it." I sighed, deciding it was time to reveal the truth. "Trouble?" I said, stepping closer to the manager. "Do you know who I am?" He sneered. "Should I?" I reached into my pocket and pulled out my business card, handing it to him. "I'm James Carter, the owner of this store. And not just this store, the entire Harvest Fresh chain." The color drained from his face as he read the card. You're the owner?" he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. "That's right," I said. "I came here today to see how things were running. Unfortunately, what I've seen is disappointing, starting with how you've treated me." The officers exchanged glances, clearly realizing the situation had escalated in a way they hadn't anticipated. "Mr. Carter, we're sorry for the inconvenience," one of them said. "We'll leave now, unless there's anything else you need." "No, thank you, officers," I replied. "You're just doing your job." As they left, I turned back to the manager. His bravado was gone, replaced by sheer panic. "Mr. Carter, I didn't mean any disrespect. I thought—" "You thought what?" I asked, my voice sharp. "That I didn't belong here? That a black man in a hoodie couldn't possibly be a customer, let alone your employer?" He stammered, searching for words. "It's not like that, I swear." "Really?" I said, because it certainly felt like that. By now, other employees had gathered, watching the exchange in stunned silence. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "Here's what's going to happen," I said. "You're going to treat every customer who walks through these doors with respect, regardless of what they look like. And as for you, I added, pointing at the manager, you'll be hearing from HR. This kind of behavior won't be tolerated in my stores. I'm so sorry, he mumbled, but I didn't stay to hear more. I turned and headed to the checkout line, determined to finish what I'd come for. As I walked out with my groceries, I couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions: anger, sadness, and a glimmer of hope. Incidents like these were far too common. But every confrontation was an opportunity to teach and demand better. That day, I didn't just remind that manager of his place, I reminded myself of mine. As a leader, as a human being, and as someone who refuses to be defined by anyone else's prejudice.